Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm HARLEEN DANDONA, an ICCRC approved consultant. My company's name is Next World Canada Immigration Consulting Inc. and we are located in Ontario, Canada. Today I'm going to discuss about one of the most important factors of Canadian immigration, which is IELTS. We are going to learn about IELTS format and important tips to get a higher score. If you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe it. This will give me motivation and encouragement to create more videos. IELTS is International English Language Testing System which evaluates your English based on receptive and productive skills. The receptive skills are listening and reading, and the productive skills are writing and speaking. This will be a 2-video series. In this video, I'll talk about listening and reading, and in the next video, we will talk about writing and speaking. Please note that although there are 2 types of IELTS tests, which are IELTS General and IELTS Academic, we will be discussing IELTS General only, as this is the module which is required for immigration purpose. Okay, so let's talk about listening test. The test duration of listening test is 40 minutes. This test has 4 sections and these sections are in the order of difficulty, which means the first section is going to be the easiest, whereas the 4th one is going to be the most difficult. Please make sure that you write the answers into the question booklet. It is a simultaneous process of listening and writing. You need to answer these 40 questions while you listen to the audio. At the end of the test, you will get 10 minutes to transfer the answers from the question booklet to an answer sheet which will be provided to you. Now let's talk about each of the 4 sections of listening test. Section 1 is generally a conversation between 2 people set in an everyday special context. Example, a conversation about accommodation. Section 2 is generally a monologue set in an everyday social context. For example, a speech about local facilities or about arrangements for meals during a conference. Section 3 is generally a conversation between up to 4 people set in an educational or training context. For example, a university tutor and a student discussing an assignment or group of people planning a project. And section 4 is generally a talk, for example, a university lecture. Now, coming to the listening tips. The first and the most important tip is that at the beginning of each section, read the questions for that section carefully before the recording starts. This will help you to follow the recording and identify the answers. Next tip is, after completing a section, it is better to look ahead and read the questions for the next section than to worry about the last section. The next tip is, you will sometimes have a list of options to choose from as answers. The possible answers may be listed in alphabetical order and not necessarily in the order you will hear them. 4th tip is, be careful to note the word limits. If there is an instruction which says, write no more than 2 words, writing more than 2 words will mean you will receive no marks at all for your answer, even if some of the words were correct. So that means it is very important for you to go through the instructions carefully. 5th tip is, try to listen for keywords or synonyms from the question to help you identify the answer. For example, in the recording you might hear she likes going to the gym and playing tennis, whereas on your answer sheet this could appear as she's an active person. The next tip is you may be asked to write down words that have been spelled out in the recording. In order to do this well, you need to know the English alphabet and how each letter is pronounced. For example, the letter W is pronounced as W. Now, the seventh tip is listen carefully for words which indicate which stage of the recording you are listening to. For example, firstly, my next point, to sum up. So these words will help you to identify which question you have reached. Next tips is as you are listening to the recording, cross out options that don't fit. This makes it easier for you to find the right answer. Now, the ninth tip is if you are writing dates as an answer to any question, remember that there are several correct ways to write them. For example, 24th April, April 24, and 24 April all are correct choices. Next tip is if there are questions you cannot answer, just leave them and move on to the next question. This will help you to stay calm and positive and go back to those questions in the end if you have time. The last tip is after the last recording has ended, you have 10 minutes to transfer your answers from the listening booklet to your answer sheet. Don't make the mistake of copying these answers across to their answer sheet in between the sections, because then you might miss the important information about the next section of the test. Wait until the end of the section before transferring your answers. So these are few important tips for the listening test, and if you will follow these, you will definitely score higher in the listening test. Okay, so let's talk about the reading test. Reading has 3 sections and each section will have 1 or 2 tests based upon which you need to answer 40 questions. These are in the order of difficulty. That means section 1 is going to be the most easiest, whereas section 3 is going to be a little difficult, which means that the passage can be a little bit longer or the language could be just a little difficult. Please make sure that you write the answers straight into the answer sheet, because in reading test you don't get any extra time to transfer the answers from the question booklet. This is one of the most common mistakes that someone can make in the reading test. Please remember that you do not get any extra time to transfer the answers to the answer sheet in the reading test. This is very important. Now let's talk about each of the 3 sections in the reading test. Section 1 contains 2 or 3 short factual tests, one of which may be composite, which means that it may consist of 6 to 8 short texts related by a topic. For example, hotel advertisements. Topics are relevant to everyday life in an English-speaking country. Section 2 contains 2 short factual tests focusing on work-related issues. For example, applying for jobs, company policies, pay and conditions related to workplace, staff development and trainings. Section 3 contains 1 longer, more complex text on a topic of general interest. You will be reading real passages taken from notices, from adverts, company handbooks, official documents, books, magazines, and newspapers. Now let's talk about reading tips. The first tip is To improve your performance in the reading test, you need to practice reading a variety of English text. This will help you develop the ability to read quickly as it is required under the test conditions. Next tip is read every question carefully first before reading the passages. This will make it easier for you to find the answers and underline possible answers as you go. Next step is when you come to the reading passage, read it quickly for the first time in order to get a general idea of what it's all about. Don't worry about words you do not understand. And then read each question again to remind yourself which parts of the passage you will need to read again in detail. Next tip is if you are copying words from a question or reading passage to use in your answer, remember that your spelling must be accurate. Now let's move to the fifth tip. The reading passages always contain the information you need to answer the question. You won't have to use your own knowledge of any given topic. Next step is the reading test may sometimes include questions which test your overall understanding of a passage. For example, the question may ask what the topic of a particular passage is. Try underlining the keywords and ideas in each paragraph as you read to help you understand the key message of each passage. Let's move on to the seventh tip. Please circle or underline keywords as you read. For example, if a reading passage contains many place names or dates, circle them as you go along. This will make it easier to find these details later if they come up in any of your questions. The eighth tip is if you are asked to label a diagram, you will find the words you need in the text, but make sure to copy them carefully from the text with the correct spelling. Ninth tip is if there are questions you cannot answer, leave them and move on to the next question. This will help you to stay calm and positive without wasting any time. And go back to these questions at the end of the exam if you have time. Next tip is make sure you write down your answers for the reading test on the answer sheet and not the question paper. There will be no extra time to transfer your answers from the question booklet to the answer sheet. If you have liked this video, please subscribe my channel. This will give me motivation and encouragement to create more videos. And I will very soon upload the next video of the IELTS series. Till then, goodbye and take care of yourself. Thank you.